How to cut palazzo trouser perfectly.
After folding your fabric into two, you are going to be adding half an inch stitching allowance to the side, which happens to be the folded part. But if I am working with a crepe fabric, I don't usually add seam allowance to the front. I only added to the back. This trouser is going to have a band, so I'm going to be removing 2 inches band allowance from all the vertical measurements. So the knee I'm working with is 23. You can see how I placed my tape, and the hip line is 8 inches. Okay, now to get your crotch, which usually you call it flap, just divide your hip divided by 4. Whatever you have is going to be your crotch or your flap. But if you are working with a crepe fabric, whatever you get, you can just reduce it by half an inch. So this particular trouser, the hip measurement is 42 inches. 42 inches divided by 4 gives me 10.5. So I'm going to be marking 10.5 as the crotch or flap measurement. The next thing is to take your tie line. Your tie line is usually 3 inches from your crotch line. You can see, so just mark 3 inches below your crotch line. Go ahead and rule it out. So right here is my waist line, hip line, crotch line, tie line, knee line, and the length plus the folding allowance. So right here you are going to be marking the quarter of your hip, which is 10.5. Just use your own measurements, and you can see where I started my tape from. Now you're going to rule it down and stop at the crotch. Okay, now divide what you have on your crotch. You can see where I place my tape. Divide what you have there by 4. So whatever you have is going to be your crotch extension. After dividing by 4, then you add it here. That's going to serve as your crotch extension. Now mark everything you have there all together, and then you are going to mark your midpoint. So when you fold it into 2, you get your midpoint, and you are going to mark that midpoint all the way down. You also mark it all the way up. So that midpoint will serve as your dart. Okay, go ahead and curve the crotch, and then you take your dart measurement. So right here on this point, I'm going to be taking the quarter of the waist. You can see where I started my tape from. Put the quarter of your waist measurement plus the dart you are taking off and the half an inch stitching allowance. Then you go ahead and connect it to your hip measurement. Now on your tie, the tie I'm working with is 26. 26 divided by 2 gives me 13. So that 13, you are going to be dividing it on both sides of that midpoint. So half of 13 will give us 6.5. So you mark 6.5 on both sides of this midpoint. Now on the knee, because this is a palazzo trouser, I'm going to be using the quarter of the hip for the knee measurement, but for this I decided to remove 1 inch from the quarter of the hip, so I have 9. So that 9 I'm going to be dividing it and add it on both sides of this midpoint. So that means I'll be inserting 4.5 on both sides of this midpoint. So whatever you use at the knee is what you are going to use at the length of your trouser. So take the measurements all the way down. You are going to be adding half an inch stitching allowance to the waist area. You also add it to the crotch area. Also remember to add back your band to the waist. Remember we took off the band allowance from the waist. Okay, please consider to follow my page, like this video, share this video as well, and I will see you guys in my next tutorial. I'm going to use this to cut out the back.